When Jasmine Crockett filed that $80 million lawsuit, it sent a message that echoed far beyond political circles. This wasn't just about a personal grievance or a heated argument gone too far. This was a strategic, deliberate move to draw a clear line in the sand. It told the world that words have weight, and when they're weaponized to damage someone's character on a national stage, there are consequences, serious, legal, and financial. The amount, $80 million, wasn't arbitrary. It was bold, calculated, and symbolic. It screamed that reputational harm isn't just an emotional wound, it's something that carries measurable monetary damage. In today's political climate, where live broadcasts and viral moments define narratives within seconds, being misrepresented or attacked publicly can destroy years of credibility. Careers are built and crushed by sound bites. The lawsuit wasn't filed in a vacuum. It was the result of a moment that played out in front of cameras, in real time for millions to witness. Those comments weren't muttered in a back room or whispered off the record. They were delivered with full confidence and intention, knowing the reach and ripple effects of national media exposure. The legal action wasn't about silencing anyone or suppressing a differing opinion. It was about standing up to a kind of recklessness that's become far too common. When a public figure levels accusations or makes inflammatory statements on air, particularly against an elected official, they're not just making a personal jab, they're making a statement to the country. And in this case, that statement came with potential consequences that could stretch across an entire career. It became a moment where personal attack and professional destruction merged into a singular, powerful incident. There's a reason high-stakes defamation suits are rare in the political world. Most politicians let verbal barbs slide, chalking it up to the cost of being in the arena. But this was different. This time the comment wasn't just petty or disrespectful, it was perceived as targeted and damaging in a deeply personal and professional way. Filing a lawsuit wasn't just about setting the record straight. It was about drawing a legal boundary that too many thought didn't exist anymore. It was a demand for accountability in a world where spin often overshadows truth. And that accountability came in the form of a figure that turns heads, $80 million. A number that large doesn't just represent pain and suffering. It reflects future opportunities lost, credibility tarnished, and years of work undermined in a single moment. It also serves another purpose: deterrence. By attaching a staggering financial cost to reckless speech, it warns others who might use their platform to attack rather than engage. It says, if you're going to speak on someone's name, especially live and unscripted, you'd better come with facts, not just flair. What makes this move even more significant is the timing. The political landscape is already a minefield, with heightened tensions, media spin, and digital chaos. Choosing to step into that storm with a lawsuit isn't just gutsy, it's historic. It takes the usual back and forth of political mudslinging and suddenly elevates it into a courtroom battle, where every claim, every comment, and every consequence will be dissected under oath. It moves the drama from the airwaves to the legal bench, where emotion meets evidence. This wasn't about scoring points or grabbing headlines. It was about integrity. A firm stance that a woman's name, reputation, and legacy aren't up for public demolition, especially not without a fight. And it's a fight that doesn't involve shouting back or launching a counterattack in the press. It's a fight grounded in the justice system, where claims must be proved, damages must be justified, and the truth must stand alone without a spin cycle. No matter how the case turns out, the act of filing it alone has already changed the game. It's a warning shot across the bow of modern media and political commentary. It tells commentators, spokespeople, and talking heads that the days of saying anything, anywhere, with zero consequence may be coming to an end. Words aren't just words anymore. In the world of live news and political warfare, they're either currency or liability, and in this case, the liability might cost $80 million. The core of this entire firestorm revolves around one of the most volatile questions in modern discourse. Where does free speech end and defamation begin? It's a tightrope every public figure walks, especially in the political world where commentary can turn into personal attacks at the drop of a soundbite. In this particular instance, that line wasn't just crossed, It was obliterated in real time, on live television, with the whole nation watching. What was framed as commentary quickly veered into a realm that many legal experts and viewers alike recognized as something far more dangerous: character assassination. The U.S. has always cherished the right to free expression, particularly when it comes to political debate. It's a right that protects both the truth-teller and the provocateur. But it does not shield falsehoods that cause real harm to a person's career, reputation, or livelihood. That's the heart of this situation. Words weren't just used to challenge policy or offer a different perspective. They were used as a blunt instrument, targeting someone's integrity in a manner that appeared deliberate, rehearsed, and highly public. And when those words carry the potential to destroy someone's public standing, the law takes notice. This isn't simply a clash of opinions. It's a case study in how the First Amendment is both powerful and limited. Free speech allows for dissent. It allows for criticism. But it does not give carte blanche to make inflammatory claims that are false and damaging. The challenge here is distinguishing harsh political critique from statements that mislead and harm. The moment those remarks aired, there was an immediate shift in the atmosphere. This wasn't political jousting, it was a hit right out in the open with no pretense of civility. The context matters. When you're speaking to a national audience under the banner of a respected news outlet, your words carry more weight. They're not just opinions shared over coffee. They're statements that can shape narratives, influence voters, and destroy reputations in seconds. That's the danger. In today's media environment, people don't wait for the full context or clarification. They take the viral clip, they run with it, and in many cases they make up their minds before the dust even settles. The fallout from those comments wasn't just emotional, it was reputational. When you attack someone's integrity or suggest impropriety without a shred of evidence, and you do it where millions are listening, the damage is immediate and almost impossible to reverse. That's why defamation law exists. Not to silence voices, but to protect individuals from falsehoods that cause genuine harm. It's the legal boundary that ensures freedom of speech doesn't become freedom to destroy. There's also a larger cultural issue at play. We've entered an era where being provocative is often more rewarded than being accurate. Hot takes are currency. Outrage equals ratings. And somewhere in that chaos, the line between commentary and defamation has become dangerously blurred. That's why this case matters. It could help redraw that line. It could force those with microphones and cameras to think twice before turning a talking point into a personal attack. There's a reason this moment sparked such intense debate across the legal and media landscapes. It raised uncomfortable questions. Are we protecting dialogue or encouraging destruction? Are public figures fair game for any accusation just because they hold office? Or should there be limits, legal, moral, or both, on how far one can go in the name of debate? The legal proceedings that follow will likely dissect every word, every intonation, and every implication. That's the nature of defamation cases. They demand precision, they demand proof, and more importantly, they demand a reckoning between truth and narrative. This isn't about someone being offended, it's about someone being injured, professionally, reputationally, and possibly financially, by a moment that went far beyond acceptable political discourse. It's not enough to say, that's just how politics works. At some point, we have to ask what kind of discourse we're willing to tolerate, and what kind we're not. If false accusations are allowed to fly without challenge, especially on national television, then the damage they cause will only grow. And so will the silence of those too afraid to speak up or fight back. In that silence, accountability dies. That's what this case seeks to restore. Not just personal justice, but a sense of boundaries that hold even. It started with a single broadcast, just another segment in a long string of political interviews. But what happened next was anything but ordinary. Within moments, the clip exploded online, rocketing across platforms like a spark in dry brush. Millions of views poured in almost instantly, and with every replay, every reshare, every reaction post, the damage deepened. The words delivered in that live moment weren't just provocative, they were viral fuel, and they lit the internet on fire. In the world of modern media, where reputations can rise or fall in the span of a single tweet, this was an all-out inferno. The clip didn't go viral by accident. It hit every nerve. It had shock value, conflict, and a target. The perfect recipe for engagement. Social media thrives on outrage, and this moment delivered it in spades. The algorithm did what it always does, amplified the most dramatic parts, divorced from context, and served them up to audiences hungry for controversy. Suddenly, the comment wasn't just a brief moment in a long discussion. It was the moment. And it traveled faster than truth ever could. What made the situation even more volatile was how quickly it got reframed. Within minutes, different corners of the internet spun their own narratives. On one end, it was painted as a bold call-out. On the other, it was seen as an unprovoked personal attack. The truth didn't matter anymore. The clip had legs. It was being shared not just as news but as content, meme-worthy, bite-sized, and ready to be weaponized. Political influencers reposted it. Commentators dissected it. Hashtags surged to the top of trending lists. And at the center of the storm stood someone whose name, image, and reputation were being dissected by strangers who had never met them. It's easy to underestimate the toll of that kind of exposure. One moment you're living your life, fulfilling your responsibilities, focused on your work. The next, your name is on the lips of every pundit, your face is on every screen, and your intentions are being judged by people who only know a 5-second clip. That's not just attention, it's scrutiny. And in today's media climate, scrutiny is often ruthless, merciless, and completely divorced from fairness. This was no longer a matter of debate. It had become a spectacle. Viewers weren't just reacting to what was said, they were reacting to each other's reactions. It became a feedback loop of outrage and commentary, spinning so fast that even those directly involved could barely keep up. And unlike a closed door, meeting, or a written statement, a live comment caught on video becomes a permanent living piece of media. It can be paused, slowed down, analyzed frame by frame. There is no walking it back. No, I misspoke. No do-overs. That's what made this particular incident so devastating. The immediacy of live television gave it authenticity, and the reach of the internet gave it immortality. The person targeted couldn't respond fast enough to correct the record before the damage was done. In fact, by the time a statement could be drafted, the internet had already moved on to memes, edits, and spin-offs. The comment had taken on a life of its own, stripped of its original setting and used to push narratives, stir anger, and deepen division. It also highlighted how unprepared our systems are for dealing with this kind of instantaneous harm. Traditional avenues of correction, press conferences, public statements, clarifications, can't keep pace with a viral moment. The court of public opinion delivers its verdict long before the truth can catch up. And the penalty it imposes is often far more severe than anything handed down by a judge. Reputations are ruined, careers are stalled, and no amount of backpedaling or explanation can fully undo the damage. This is the brutal reality of media in the digital age. One comment, captured live, can redefine a person overnight. It can take years of hard-earned credibility and grind it to dust. The price of a single misstep, or in this case, a targeted statement, is immeasurable. And it's made even worse by the fact that the audience rarely sees the full picture. They see the drama, the reaction, the controversy, but they don't see the sleepless nights, the frantic calls, the legal consultations, the deep personal toll. What happened in that broadcast wasn't just a viral moment. It was a turning point. The clip might have lasted only seconds, but its impact was seismic. It reshaped the conversation, weaponized public sentiment, and left the subject of the attack fighting to reclaim a narrative that had already been hijacked by clicks, views, and digital mobs. What comes next after an $80 million lawsuit explodes into the public arena? That's the question gripping everyone who's been watching this drama unfold. Once the cameras stop rolling and the internet moves on to the next controversy, the real battle begins. Not in tweets or on talk shows, but in courtrooms, legal filings, and private negotiations that will determine how this story ultimately ends. The possibilities are wide open. This could become one of the most high-profile defamation trials in recent memory. It could quietly settle behind closed doors for an undisclosed sum, or it could spiral into something even more unpredictable, setting precedents that stretch far beyond the individuals involved. A case of this magnitude doesn't just vanish. With so much money at stake and reputations hanging in the balance, every decision will be closely scrutinized. If it goes to trial, expect a media circus. Networks will dissect every motion, every witness, every cross-examination. Legal experts will line up to weigh in. And every single moment of the original incident, the tone, the phrasing, the body language, will be put under a microscope. The original clip that sparked this all will be replayed countless times as both sides try to convince a jury where the line between opinion and damage was truly crossed. A public trial would be explosive. It wouldn't just be about one person suing another. It would turn into a referendum on modern political discourse, media responsibility, and the boundaries of free speech. Witnesses would be called. Internal communications could be subpoenaed. Ratings and motives might be dragged into the spotlight. The people who watched the original segment might get a front row seat to something far more consequential, a legal showdown over the power and responsibility of live political commentary. And it wouldn't just affect those involved. It would send a message to every pundit, commentator, and spokesperson who's ever gone off script with a hot take. But there's another possible path: settlement. Behind the scenes, lawyers are likely working overtime to determine if this can be resolved without dragging it into court. A settlement doesn't mean guilt or innocence. It means calculation. It's a business decision. How much is it worth? To make this go away? For some, a private deal is the smart move. It avoids months, maybe years, of legal battles and headlines. It puts a lid on the firestorm before it burns any more careers or credibility. But even a settlement won't erase what happened. The public already saw it, already formed opinions, already shared their reactions. The damage is out there, regardless of how the case concludes. And then there's the third possibility: escalation. When neither side backs down, and public sentiment keeps fueling the fire, the situation can spiral. Counter lawsuits, new claims, additional media appearances designed to sway public opinion. In this scenario, the courtroom becomes just one battlefield. The other is cultural. It becomes about who controls the story, who comes out looking stronger, and who the public ultimately believes. In today's environment, that kind of warfare isn't fought with facts alone. It's fought with influence, headlines, and carefully crafted statements designed to keep emotions running high. This phase of the ordeal is just as critical as the moment that sparked it. Every move now is strategic. Every word matters. Every appearance or silence will be interpreted. Both parties are likely surrounded by legal teams, media consultants, and advisors trying to manage the fallout while preparing for what's next. And as much as the legal system demands patience and process, the media doesn't wait. Every delay, every update, every filed motion becomes another headline, another wave of speculation, another opportunity for the public to weigh in without knowing all the facts. What makes this moment so volatile is that it sits on the edge of several cultural fault lines. It's not just a legal issue, it touches politics, media ethics, gender, dynamics, and the role of accountability in the age of instant information. If the case goes forward, it may change how future public figures speak on air. If it settles, it could either be seen as a victory for reputational defense or a calculated retreat. And if it implodes, taking everyone down with it, it could be remembered not just as a lawsuit, but as a landmark moment in how political discourse is policed, protected, and punished. This isn't just about who wins in court. It's about what this case comes to represent. It's about the standards we set for public dialogue and the price we attach to stepping over the line. In the end, it may not be the legal outcome that defines this story. It might be how it reshapes the boundaries of acceptable speech in a world where one comment can change everything. As this unfolding legal drama captures the nation's attention, it's clear that this moment is about far more than a single televised comment or even an $80 million lawsuit. It's about accountability in a time when public words can carry the weight of personal destruction. It's about the boundaries we draw or fail to draw between robust political debate and reckless verbal assault. And it's about how we, as a culture, respond when those boundaries are pushed too far. For too long, public platforms have become arenas of unchecked commentary, where shock value often outweighs truth and outrage is currency. But what this situation brings into sharp focus is that words have power, and power comes with responsibility. When that responsibility is ignored, consequences are no longer just theoretical. They're tangible. They come in the form of lawsuits, reputational fallout, and long-term damage that can't be undone with a retraction or a casual apology. In many ways, this lawsuit isn't just seeking compensation, it's demanding accountability. It's pushing back against a growing trend where individuals believe they can say anything, so long as it generates clicks, views, and ratings. But now, there's a clear message being sent. Just because a microphone is in your hand doesn't mean you're shielded from the law. The First Amendment protects freedom of speech. It doesn't protect defamation, especially when it's broadcast live and impacts someone's career, integrity, and future. And while the courtroom will ultimately decide the legal merits of this case, the court of public opinion has already shown how quickly narratives are shaped, reputations are tested, and justice can be demanded by those willing to fight for it. Whether this ends in a high-profile trial or a behind-the-scenes settlement, it will serve as a stark reminder to every commentator, anchor, and public figure that the stakes are real. Say what you will, but understand that you may have to stand behind it in more ways than one. This situation also gives viewers and voters alike an opportunity to reflect on what kind of discourse they want to support. Do we reward inflammatory attacks, or do we demand honesty and fairness, even from those we agree with? This moment challenges everyone, not just those on camera, to raise the standard of how we engage in national dialogue. Because if public figures are expected to speak boldly, they must also be prepared to speak responsibly. In the end, this lawsuit may do more than hold one individual accountable. It might just become a landmark moment in the cultural shift toward restoring decency and truth in political commentary. Not through censorship, but through consequence. Because when the cameras turn off and the echo fades, all that remains is the impact of what was said and whether justice